So today we're talking about PR because I think, as we've talked about before, in sort of relation to PR, we are in a very, very interesting situation at the moment. The growth again for the movement for PR is at an all-time high. Even I would argue bigger back than when it was in sort of 2011, sort of 2012, and I think that this is a good momentum that we've got building, a really, really good momentum. And of course, now, as I've talked before, that I think there should be a shift in not only just talking or making people aware about PR, but I think there also needs to be definitely a shift into educating people on PR as well, letting them know this is exactly what proportional representation is. PR, this is what it is. This is what it can do for the UK, and why it is such an important thing that we get proportional representation changed. But we've also got to tackle the arguments that are going to get thrown against us. And the thing is, if we start tackling these arguments now and have answers for these arguments now, it is going to be far, far easier for us down the line if we are fighting again a potential another referendum to get these laws changed, etc., etc. So we've got to start really answering these questions now rather than sort of waiting for them to get down the line. So this is definitely one question that you hear all the time, that if we go to proportional representation, that we will lose the constituency link that people have with their MPs. And we're going to get into this today because I think it is really a very valid question to sort of ask, but it's certainly one that PR certainly does have an answer for, and that people would not lose that constituency link if we went for PR. So that was the TDR, of course, but of course there's a bit more really to add to this to answer to that question. So as always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are my Patreon page and my one-off donation link where you can buy me coffee. Thank you very much to all those people who do that. And of course, there is the YouTube subscription button as well, where you get the sort of badges and emojis and whatnot when you help support the channel that way. So on with today's article. This comes from Get PR Done. And honestly, if you want any answers or you have questions about PR, this is where you go, especially if you want a UK stuff. They've got a ton of resources. There's a ton of stuff on here. So if you've got questions about PR in the UK, this is where you need to sort of go, because they've pretty much got all the answers here. But yes, we're going to be covering this blog that they've done today, which is again PR and the constituency link. So, I cannot support a system that breaks the constituency link. How many times have we heard that one? It was one of the oldest lines that is trotted out to support of the winner-takes-all system, and it's often deployed by MPs elected under that very same system. In reply to constituents asking them to support a move for a fairer one, saying, I cannot support a system that breaks the constituency link, as they write these words, you can almost imagine their hands clasped in pious prayer as they offer thanks for the method of false accounting that put them where they are, and which, in safe seats, can be relied upon to keep them there. So apart from the very large helpings of humbug, this one is one of the tritest and false objections to a fairer electoral system, because almost all of the proportional systems do maintain a link between representatives and the particular areas. The only exceptions being the system used in Israel, where the whole country is treated as a single constituency, and the Netherlands also. So what proportional systems don't do, however, is create a link that is exclusive to one MP. This is because wherever the system, they all involve the creation of a multi-member seats. And this is the, quote, constituency link that fetishists are really objecting to. Basically, what they want to be the only one to show in their town, city, or village that they are securing for genuine, they are scared of genuine competition. These multi-member seats that any individual elector has at least more than one member of parliament to represent them. So if they need to turn to an MP for any kind of assistance or make a particular point, they have a choice as to whom to approach. More fundamentally, it raises the chances that people will generally feel themselves to be properly represented in Parliament by someone whose views at least slightly resemble their own. Campaigners for PR have not done enough to trumpet this as a virtue, and I agree. This really is something that they really need to get, I think, start trumpeting it about. And I've said this before, under these systems, you can have sort of more than one MP, and then you can go to someone or talk to someone if you have a problem or you want a particular issue brought up. I mean, imagine going to like a Conservative MP and saying, oh yes, the cost of living crisis, it's really bad. How are you going to help us? That Conservative MP, as we've seen very recently at the moment, potentially not even going to help at this moment in time. So how good would it be to be able to go to, like, I don't know, a Labour MP or a Lib Dem MP or Clyde, can't even say it, the Welsh one, and of course, SNP, Green, whatever, to be able to sort of bring your point to them. And I think it is definitely something that sort of we need to start seriously talking about as a virtue when we're talking about PR. So anyway, back to the article. While certain MPs, and many remain rather pompously, claim that there is some kind of umbilical link between themselves and their constituents, the widespread evidence of political disillusion shows that this is the case of unrequited love. Some surveys have found that less than a quarter of people can even name their MP. And we've brought this up before. If I went out to town in my town centre, no one could name my MP. It's Dan Jarvis, by the way, but no one could name the MP. So yeah, it is. It's a very one-sided love affair, and it's certainly not reciprocated by many of their electorates. Tony Benn, an opponent of proportional representation, said that as an MP, one was employed by the people who vote for you. So in my constituency, everyone I met was my employer. The slight problem there, of course, is that not everyone did vote for him. Far from it. In 3 of the 4 elections he fought in Chelmsford, more than half of the voters would have preferred someone else. And of course, Tony Benn, the MP for Bristol East and Chesterfield, was a strong advocate for extending democracy, but not for PR. It's nonsense anyway to suppose that any single MP can properly represent all shades of opinion in a given geographical area. In that way, politically, did Tony Benn represent the conservative opinions of his constituents in Chesterfield and Bristol. Today, for example, how can Steve Baker represent pro-Europeans in Wakeham? And then there is the single-member constituencies themselves, the fantastic geographical beasts carved from the map of the Boundary Commission, often linking areas that have no real community or interest in bearing the names that will leave many scratching their heads. A recent development is that the ancient county boundaries that did actually have some cultural and historical significances are being ignored in favour of creating the equal electoral districts, but never mind the equal representation part of the people living there. People do feel some sense of belonging to Yorkshire or Devon, and they are infinitely less attracted to the artificial creations such as Weir and Preston North, Farnham and Bordon, or even Seaford and North Hykeham. It is time that we came out fighting against this single member seats as a bad idea in themselves, as well as arguing that the elimination is vital to achieve a cleaner match between voters and seats and something closer to a true democracy. The Boundary Commission is key to the success of proportional representation based on the multi-member constituencies, and the electoral map has recently been redrawn to recreate the equal electoral districts. This ignores the cultural, historical ties that should be reversed. So what is wrong with using local government boundaries in order to define the multi-member constituencies? Electors in each country share the ancient bond, and of course, importantly, they all pay taxes to the same local authority. The same is true of cities. People proudly identify with the area in which they live. What could be more sensible than a group of MPs representing Liverpool, Manchester, or Birmingham? London is so large that it would have to be broken up. And what about dividing Greater London using the old home county boundaries, i.e. Middlesex, Hertfordshire, Essex, Kent and Surrey? In addition, the Boundary Commission should be given a new job to define the super wards within each constituency. It would be logical to base these on parish boundaries, and interests of each super ward could then be represented by a single MP. This would also keep the constituency link very much alive. So, as you can see there, yeah, this argument that very, very often gets trotted out, oh, we'll lose, our constituency link. It's often very much brought about by MPs, but again, they make a very good, valid argument. How can Steve Baker actually represent the views of pro-European constituents? He can't, because he's a Brexiteer. He's obviously not going to represent the views. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he has dismissed them on many an occasion. It would actually be fascinating to know if any pro-European has actually ever written, who is a constituent of Steve Baker, who's ever written to him, and you've written to him about sort of concerns about Brexit or anything like that. What response, if any, have you had from him? I would be very sort of interested to know that. So if you've written to Steve Baker and you live in his constituency, please do let us know down below in the comments. But of course, right down below in the comments, I do know we have a lot of Europeans. So if you do live in Europe and you are under your PR system, what's it like actually interacting with your MP or MPs, as the case may be? I really like to sort of know that and get a good example, because it would be good, again, to take these forward to, again, the campaign like this, to get PR done, to show people that yes, this is possible, that you do not lose the constituency link. If anything, you make the constituency link, from what at least we've seen here, potentially even stronger. So please do let me know down in the comments below. And of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there's the YouTube subscription button as well, where you can subscribe to the channel that way. And of course, the YouTube thank you button as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.